Hello internet and welcome back to another video on the EJ Black YouTube channel. That's the one that you're on right now. If you look underneath, you can see my little face. Today, I felt like I wanted to record a video. And because I wanted to record a video, I had to think of a topic. So I decided to talk about my top 10 favorite technical death metal albums. Because this is my YouTube channel and I can talk about whatever I want. If you didn't notice, this is my channel. Look below and you'll see that I own it. So I can talk about whatever I want. Alright? So to start off our list, I'm going to be going in reverse order. So I'm going to be starting from my 10th favorite. We've got Immolation Acts of God. This is a new Immolation album, and I thought it was a very good return to form after their last album. I've enjoyed pretty much all of Immolation's work for the past couple decades, but there have still been some major highlights that have come out, and especially since I'm not talking about the pure death metal ones and just the technical death metal ones, Immolation Acts of God is going to come on this list at number 10. So for number 9, we've got Revenant Inferi. This album I actually have on vinyl because I like it, and so I purchased it. I also have another one of their albums on vinyl, but this one I like less than the other one. Again, Inferi are another band that have a very consistent discography. I don't think there's any weak points really. I think they're all like consistently good technical death metal, and I like it. In number 8, we have Symbolic by Death. So Death are obviously a classic death metal band. They're arguably the pioneers if you don't count Possessed, Seven Churches. But I mean, I think they still are like the pioneers of death metal. They really made the style what it is. And after creating death metal, they went on to make some really good technical death metal and innovate that sound as well. And I think that this is one of the best sounds in technical death metal. And I think that the guitar work on Death albums especially are just crazy. And especially when they go really technical, there's nothing to complain about. The guitar work is just perfect on these albums. In the number 7 spot, we have this album by Rings of Saturn. I've never known how to pronounce the name, so I just won't even try. Now this album is one that isn't pure technical death metal. People call it technical deathcore because it's got some very heavy deathcore influence. And while I'm normally not a big fan of deathcore, especially the vocal style, I think it works really well when it's combined with technical death metal. I think it provides something new that doesn't just sound like every other deathcore band, because every deathcore band sounds kind of the same. And to be fair, technical death metal can get very repetitive, but I don't think to the same extent as deathcore. So I've really enjoyed a lot of Rings of Saturn's work because they've combined this, what is in my opinion, a very stale sound with this really fast-paced, amazing guitar work and a lot of synthesizer sounds and stuff that you normally don't hear in death metal. So I think it's pretty innovative stuff on the Rings of Saturn front. In slot number 6, we have Edge of Sanity Crimson 2, the second Crimson. So Crimson 1 and Crimson 2 both have this idea where they're like really long songs and the whole album is kind of just one song split into multiple parts. And so the first one is 40 minutes and the second one is 43 minutes. And I don't know how they managed to keep this idea and constantly change it throughout while keeping it the same as the original melody, but also managed to change it enough that it doesn't get repetitive and stale. They managed to really work with this melody well, that they bring it across 2 albums, and both albums are really good, and it doesn't get tiresome after 83 minutes. So Edge of Sanity Crimson 2 is in my number 6 slot, but Edge of Sanity Crimson 1 is going to be in a different slot. And you'll have to watch the full video to find out. Yeah, that's how you do audience retention. Alright, in number 5, we have Death, Spiritual Healing. So neither of the Death albums on this list are my favorite Death album, but they are my favorite technical death metal Death albums. Spiritual Healing is a great album. I believe it's their 3rd album. And I mean, again, their guitar work is just so consistent. They manage to create these really catchy riffs that never get boring. And then they also have this really technical guitar playing that I still have trouble matching when I play it now. It's just amazing that they managed to consistently come out with such good riffs and such good technical guitar playing and still make it all sound good. In the number 4 slot, we have Vervum's only album, Illuminance. So as I mentioned, Vervum have only released 1 album, and it's crazy that they managed to do so much and only release 1 album, and it's not like they're an established band. I haven't looked at the members, so the members might be in other bands, and that's why their first and only album was so good. But it's just crazy that they managed to make something that's so grand and they've only done 1 album. It feels like melody-wise and instrumentation-wise, they managed to make something that's so much bigger than what you expect out of a normal technical death metal album. And so that's why it's in slot number 4. In slot number 3, we have Immolation's Atonement. So Immolation is here again. As I said, all of Immolation's work is fantastic, but I believe at the bottom of my dark heart that Atonement is their best album. Atonement has crazy melodies, it's so dark, and it still manages to be technical even though it's got these really slow rhythmic sections. It manages to feel when you're listening to it almost like you're being crushed. It's just such a heavy album in every sense of the word. And so that's why I put it in number 3. In number 2, we have The Other Crimson by Edge of Sanity. So this is Crimson 1, and everything I said about Crimson 2 still applies to Crimson 1. The fact that they managed to make this melody so versatile is just why I think it's so good. And the reason I put the first album higher than the second one is because I feel like they almost do a lot more with it in the first half when they've got like acoustic guitars and stuff that's still working with the same melody. It's too fantastic. It's too good even. And in the number 1 slot, we have Irreversible Mechanism Infinite Fields. Not only is this my favorite technical death metal album, it is also my favorite death metal album, and I might go as far as to say it's in my top 5 albums of all time. It's got a lot of symphonic components, it's got a lot of slower sections where it's not really about the guitar playing but about the atmosphere, but then it's got sections where the guitar playing is just off the chain. It's like so fast, it's incredibly technical, the technique is crazy. You can watch playthroughs of them playing live and you can see the way their fingers move. It's just unlike anything I've ever seen in death metal. Also, I think that one thing that's missed in a lot of albums nowadays is the ability to stitch together the songs. So the ability to make the whole album feel like one cohesive unit. Obviously, Edge of Sanity, Crimson, and Crimson 2 manage this because it is just one song, but to have an album that's split into different songs and still feel like a cohesive unit where every song leads into the next is a really crazy ability. And I think that every song on Infinite Fields manages to flow perfectly to the next one. There's no section where there's a jump in mood or tone that doesn't work with the album. And so that's why I put them in number 1. Now you may notice, if you're still watching this video, that there is some time left in the time section on the video. You know, the little scroll bar? You might see that it hasn't hit the end yet. And that's because I've got 2 more albums I want to mention. I do not think these albums are better than the top 10. Obviously, otherwise they'd be in the top 10. But I do think that they deserve a special mention from me. So first I want to mention Brain Drill, Boundless Obscenity. This is the first technical death metal album I ever heard. I heard it back in 2016, right when it came out. I had an app that would tell me new metal releases, and I saw this one, and I listened to it, and it introduced me to the world of technical death metal. And another album I wanted to mention was Antithesis by Origin. I have nothing to say about this album. I just like it, and so you should listen to it too, because I said so.